What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 106 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Thursday, September 4th, 2025. I'm your host, Zach Malum. But before we get started, please subscribe below. Follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off in the world of football, as opening night in the National Football League is finally here. The Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champs, will raise the banner later tonight against the Cowboys, but we'll get to that in just a minute. The New York Jets open their season on Sunday. They play host to the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday afternoon, a 1 o'clock start at MetLife Stadium. It is the return of Aaron Rodgers to MetLife Stadium all those years with the Jets, the couple of years that he spent in New York, and the Jets get their new quarterback in Justin Fields, playing host to his former team in the Pittsburgh Steelers from a year ago. The Aaron Glenn era is upon us, and we'll see what happens as the Jets come into this game as 2.5-point underdogs. Steelers 2.5-point favorites, total sitting at 37.5, and it's going to be a low total because of these two defenses. Really going to be a battle on the defensive side, and really when you look at Pittsburgh's defense, they really have the advantage everywhere. They are a monster unit, and that's really what keeps Mike Tomlin going. This defense is really tough once again, and of course they gave the extension to TJ Watt, one of the best, if not the best, pass rushers in the National Football League. He's been dominant year after year, and it's going to be a tough one for this Jets offensive line, especially now that they got the worst possible news for their offensive line. Elijah Vera Tucker in the last 24 hours or so, and it's confirmed now that he will most likely miss the rest of the season. His season's over with a torn tricep, and that's a massive blow to this Jets offensive line, a unit that really Aaron Glenn was going to rely on big time. They drafted Armand Membu, the right tackle out of Mizzou in the 2025 NFL draft, so he slots in at tackle, and now they have to replace Vera Tucker at guard. Just a massive blow, like I said, to this offensive line in a group that really wanted to help this Jets team run the ball. Aaron Glenn really focused on this run game, especially now that he has a mobile quarterback in Justin Fields. Run the ball, play tough, gritty football, and that's a massive blow to this Jets offensive line, one that they really, it's just so typical as the new era begins with Aaron Glenn, and the Jets just can't catch a break. And finally, Elijah Vera Tucker out for the season most likely, and that's just a really sad sign to see for this Jets offensive line. But they really have to step up on the defensive side. That's where I'm really looking at. A lot of guys on this defensive unit where they gave them extensions. You're looking at guys like Jamian Sherwood, the linebacker for the Jets. You're also looking at, of course, the big extension in Sauce Gardner out wide at corner. Had two really, really good seasons, all Pro Bowl seasons in his first two NFL years, but then it really went downhill a season ago. Finished off strong, and that's a positive sign to see. So Sauce is ready to go, and he's going to have a very tough task as he goes up against DK Metcalf, the new Pittsburgh Steelers, after he was traded by the Seattle Seahawks. So the Steelers have a new offense, of course, with Aaron Rodgers at the helm, but this Jets defense that knows Aaron Rodgers very well, knows the pros and cons of an Aaron Rodgers offense, they need to step up big time this weekend. So it's a 1 o'clock start, Steelers and Jets at MetLife, but I'm going to preview the entire season here and give you a season prediction. The Jets really have their tougher part of the schedule in the middle of this season. It's really towards the early part of the season as well. When you look at this Pittsburgh game, then they have Buffalo coming to town with Tampa, Miami on the road, and then you have Dallas and Denver. Denver, of course, the game in London. So those 6 games, you're looking at maybe 1-5, maybe even 0-6, dare I say. It's going to be a tough start to the season for the Jets, and they know that, but then it gets really light down towards the end of the schedule when you're talking about the teams like the Jaguars and then the Saints and, of course, the Patriots, who the Jets should beat, but really always find a way to not beat the New England Patriots. They also have a game against Miami at home in that stretch. So the Jets really should focus on the end of that season to really get a large portion of their wins. I would not freak out if the Jets are 1-5 to start this year. Just some really tough opponents to go up against. And even with Dallas getting rid of Micah Parsons, their offense is really, really tough and going to be a tough test for this Jets team in early October. So I'm going to say the Jets finish this season 6-11. I think that's really what you're looking at for this Jets team. If they end up finishing this season strong, like I said, and really starting off slow, if you're 1-5 in week 6 and all of a sudden towards the end of the season you're racking up wins, you're on a 4-game win streak, maybe even a 3-game win streak, that's where you're really seeing the positive signs of Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji. And of course, the injuries will pile up, and we've already seen that with this Jets team. So I'm going to say 6-11 is where they'll stand at the end of this season, which is really not that bad of a record, considering that they're just looking to see progress from this Jets team and maybe even a push that they can make the playoffs in a season or two. That's really what you're looking for. So the Jets end up playing the Steelers on the weekend, but the Giants are also in action this weekend. A 1 o'clock start as they travel to D.C. They take on the Washington Commanders, and Washington comes into the opening game as 6.5-point favorites, total sitting at 45.5. And it really, the spread tells you all you need to know. The Giants in a pretty much new era at quarterback with Russell Wilson, but they also did not have much added on the offensive side of things. It really comes down to their defense looks really, really strong. Of course, the Giants went with quarterback and a backup quarterback now in Jackson Dart in the first round of this year's draft. Of course, when you look at this Giants team, it comes down to, can Russell Wilson be a better quarterback than probably Daniel Jones was or Tommy DeVito was? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And Russell Wilson has looked pretty good so far in this Giants offense when it comes to training camp and into that preseason. That's really what you're looking for from this Giants team. You have to have Russell Wilson be a strong quarterback and really stand strong behind this Giants offensive line. So the defense, I think, is really what the Giants' positives is. They really added a lot into the secondary, and that's a spot that they really struggled this season ago. So they add a guy in Paulson Adebo, who's going to probably be one of their top corners, if not the top corner in this secondary. So that's a real positive sign. Can they lock down things and lock down the deep ball from Jaden Daniels, who really was remarkable a season ago? Really can't get much better than he did. He made it all the way. He made it past the Lions. I mean, you go that deep into the playoffs, into the NFC Championship game. I mean, the expectations are just sky high for Washington heading into this one. So I do think the Commanders end up, of course, winning this game. It's going to be in Washington. Not an easy test for the Giants to start this season, and definitely not an easy schedule for the Giants to start this year. The first 4 weeks in the blink of an eye, I mean, you're looking at the Giants, I think they start 0-4. That's just how it looks right now. By the looks of it on paper, Washington and Dallas on the road with Kansas City and the Chargers at home. Just not an easy way to start your year. And of course, Giant fans will be very, very at the door for Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen if it does start very poorly, an 0-4 start or something like that. I think it's going to be real ugly for this Giants team. They probably get a couple wins here and there when it comes to New Orleans, who they face on the road. And then really you're trying to figure out wins if they do become like 2-8 on the year through week 10. That's really what it's looking at for this Giants team. They have hard games all over the place. When you think it gets easier after you get through the stretch after probably the Philly game on the road in week 8, where at that point the Giants could be 1-7 at best, I would say, based on their schedule. It looks like it's going to end up that way, and really the only game being New Orleans. Yes, they could pick off a game here and there, maybe Dallas on the road, but you really wouldn't put it for this Giants team to win a game like that, especially against the Cowboys. In Jerry's world, it's kind of a tough game for the Giants to end up going to win. But when you look at the Week 10 matchup against the Bears, that's when you probably get a sigh of relief finally for this Giants team. So they need to figure things out early, or else they're going to be really angry. The Giants fans will, and they'll be knocking at the door and knocking for Joe Shane and Brian Dable to be kicked out, and that's really what it comes down to. Doesn't get any easier after that Week 10 game, as they have Green Bay at home and then Detroit on the road. So, I mean, really, anywhere you look, it's going to be a tough season for the Giants. I'm going to say they end up finishing the season strong. They have a couple games where they can win, whether it's versus Minnesota at home in late December, or at Las Vegas, or maybe even versus Dallas in the final game of the regular season. So they're probably going to end up finishing 5-12. That's going to be my prediction. I think the Giants have a good enough defense that they could keep some of these games close, but I think their problem comes on the offensive side of things. I just don't think that the Giants can keep up with some of these teams, and that's going to be their downfall in the end. I think the Giants end up finishing 5-12 on the year. The offense is not going to be the positive of the season. It's going to be the defense. I think the secondary really improved from a season ago, and that's going to be the positive signs, with especially Dexter Lawrence on that front line, Brian Burns on the front line. You also have Abdul Carter on the front line for this Giants team. So that's the positive. The offense is the negative. So I think the Giants finish 5-12, but we'll see what happens. They face off against, the Washington Commanders on Sunday, a 1:00 start for the New York Giants. So let's finish off our NFL talk as we go to Thursday night football, and it's the opening game of the year, an 8:20 start tonight as the Eagles host the Cowboys in the banner-raising game, like I mentioned, as the defending Super Bowl champs Philadelphia face off against Dallas, and they come into this game as heavy 8.5-point favorites. The spread has really moved a lot over the last couple of weeks and really the last couple of days. It's all the way up to 8.5 now, and the total sits at 48.5. So a high total. Really looking at both these offenses to step up. Of course, Dallas's first game without Micah Parsons really causing havoc on the edge, and that's really going to be the difference in this game for me. I think the Eagles win it. I don't know if they end up covering, but the total sits pretty high, so it tells you that probably going to end up being some points here. Of course, you're probably going to get the early season jitters from a couple of these teams. That's going to be really the end-all be-all for a lot of these teams in week one, similar to how it was in the college football world, where a lot of these offenses just needed a little bit of time to get in sync. But I don't think it's going to really take long for the Eagles to get in sync. They have this offense that they really didn't add too much to. Of course, they have Saquon Barkley sitting there in the backfield behind Jalen Hurts, and he's going to go for another MVP-like season in the backfield. So we'll see what happens. But Philly takes host to Dallas tonight, an 8:20 start in Philly. 8.5-point favorites at the Link. Let's shift things to baseball, as both New York teams were in action this week, and we'll start things with the New York Mets as they were out in Detroit, a 3-game set against the Detroit Tigers at Comerica Park. Mets coming off of a tough, deflating series loss to the Miami Marlins on the weekend. They lose 3 out of 4. They lose 3 out of 4 against a Miami team that they hadn't lost a series against at Citi Field since 2020. So they really need to press the reset button after that one. And they actually win 2 monster games, in my mind, against the Detroit Tigers to open up this 3-game set. A 10-8 win on Monday, with Sean Manaea really struggling in this one, only going 3 2/3, 8 hits allowed, 5 earned runs, 1 walk, and 6 Ks on just 83 pitches. But it was the Juan Soto show in this one. He goes 2 for 3, including a grand slam, his first home run for the Mets with more than 1 runner on base, and he ends up hitting a bomb, his second career grand slam. He also added a 2-run triple to his tally on the day, and that's really what it comes down to with Juan Soto. He is red hot right now. Still only batting .257, but I mean, when you play baseball in spurts like he does, and you really get hot at the right time in September, it doesn't really matter what the average is, what the average sits at, So it really, when it comes down to, is Juan Soto's red hot, and the Mets end up winning it 10-8 on Monday. Then they go into Tuesday's game, and Nolan McLean just dealing again. He gets the win for the New York Mets, his 4th win of the season. All 4 of his career starts he's 4-0 now, and he went 6 innings in this one, 3 hits allowed with 2 earned runs, 3 walks, and 7 Ks. Really struggled early in this game, allowed 2 earned runs in the first inning to Spencer Torkelson and then Perez, who hits a RBI single. So when you look at it, the Tigers really chipped away at Nolan McLean, but the big positive sign where you look at McLean is that he adjusted. He really went to different stuff than what was getting hit by the Tigers, and that's real positive to see for this Mets team. The breaking stuff really wasn't working, and he ends up going with the higher speed, the fastballs, and that's really what it came down to. He got the win in the end, and the Mets offense really helped him out. A 5 spot in the 4th, including a bunch of runs, including Luis Torrens' 3-run bomb to give the Mets a 6-2 lead. Then they add a 6 spot in the 7th, and really just home runs all around with Juan Soto as well as Pete Alonso. So the Mets end up winning it 12-5, and the Mets end up heading into the final game of the 3-game set with Detroit, and the Tigers end up taking the final game of the 3-game set, a day game on a Wednesday, and the Mets really just did not come out to play with their bats. They had 8 hits on the day, but only turned into 2 runs, and the Mets bats really just had an off day compared to what they had in recent days, but they were also out of the game once Ryan Helsley came in. He's been horrendous so far this season, an ERA over 11 since joining the Mets, and just too many earned runs, too many runs allowed in general, and 3 earned runs allowed in this one in just 2/3 of an inning. He starts the inning and just gets runners on base, just 1 walk, but the 3 hits he allowed, and of course the 3-run bomb by Kerry Carpenter is the difference in this game in the end. Of course, the Mets didn't mount a comeback, and they were down 3-2 at that point, but I mean, just giving your team a chance, and Ryan Helsley has been horrendous since he joined the Mets, so they need to figure things out with him, probably going to put him in really non-high leverage spots, but how many times can you do that? You got to rely on your arms, especially with this starting rotation that doesn't go deep into games. They need to figure things out with this bullpen and really put those guys in the correct spots. So that's really the story right now for Helsley. The fastball is getting absolutely rocketed into the stands, and he needs to figure that out, because once he does not have that going, I think he goes to the slider, but really people aren't biting on it, and opponents aren't biting on it. That's going to be a real big factor for him heading into the later months and heading into really the postseason if they're going to have to rely on him. So we'll see what happens with Helsley, but he really needs to turn it around as the Mets now head into a tough stretch, probably their toughest 7 games of the year. They go on the road to face off against the Cincinnati Reds, and now Cincinnati sits 5 games back in the wild card, so it's not the end-all be-all if Cincinnati starts winning games here, but I do think it gets really tough down the stretch, because the Mets then have to go to Philadelphia for a 4-game set at the bank, so they need to really win these games against Cincinnati. It all starts on Friday tomorrow night with David Peterson on the mound. He gets the ball. He's 8-5 on the year at 3.61 ERA, coming off of a career worst start where he allowed 8 earned runs to the Marlins. So really needs to step up in this one. He's got a tough opponent on the other side with Andrew Abbott taking the ball. 8-5 on the year at 2.65 ERA for the ace of the Cincinnati Reds. So they need to figure things out. And they really need to step up and get a win here, the Mets do. They have to win these games against Cincinnati, secure that spot in the wild card, really keep Cincinnati off their tail, keep San Francisco, who's now winning games, off their tail as well. So the Mets head into this 3-game set. They take on the Cincinnati Reds Friday to Sunday. It all starts 6:40 tomorrow night with Peterson against Abbott at Great American Ballpark. Let's shift things to the other side of New York, as the New York Yankees were also in action this week. Still ongoing with a series against the Houston Astros, and it's 1-1 after 2 games. The Yankees won the first game in grand style with Trent Grisham hitting a grand slam into the Crawford boxes in left that gave the Yankees a 6-0 lead in Tuesday's game, and they end up winning it 7-1 as Jazz Chisholm was the other part of the runs. He hits 2 home runs, won a solo shot in the 8th, and that was after a 2-run bomb to get things going for the Yankees, gave them a 2-0 lead in the 2nd inning. So really good stuff from Max Fried as well. 7 innings in this one, 101 pitches, but only 4 hits allowed with 1 earned run, 3 walks, and 5 Ks. Got a little tough towards the end of the game, but really, and give credit to this Yankees offense for giving him some breathing room, because you knew Houston would really have a fight to them, and Framber Valdez was just abysmal on the other side. Of course, very frustrated, and even a question if he was frustrated as his catcher, if you looked at that the other day. But 5 innings in this one, 8 hits allowed, 6 earned runs with 1 walk and 8 Ks. The strikeout stuff was there. He just left a lot of balls over the plate, and of course the Yankee bats were able to take advantage of it, especially with Trent Grisham really tattooing a ball into the Crawford boxes. So the Yankees end up winning it 7-1 and then get a frustrating loss on Wednesday night, an 8-7 loss that really came down to the Yankees bullpen could not get the job done. The game was tied, and even the Yankees had a 4-1 lead in the 6th. The game was tied heading into the 8th, and Devin Williams came into this one, and that's really when everything unraveled. You kind of give him the benefit of the doubt with some of those pitches. Brian Walsh certainly did not give him the benefit of the doubt, the home plate umpire. Just a lot of missed calls in the end, and Williams ends up getting charged with 4 earned runs in this game with 3 walks and 2 Ks. The 3 walks, I mean, a lot of them just hanging around the strike zone and just could not get the call early. Ended up walking in a run, and Trammell walked in the 8th to give the Astros a 5-4 lead. Camilo Doval comes in the game to really almost lock things down, or try and lock things down, with 2 outs, and the Astros went to town on him. A wild pitch, a balk, an RBI single by Jeremy Pena, and all of a sudden it's 8-4, and then Jazz Chisholm's at the plate to end the game, but that was after Cody Bellinger hit a 3-run bomb to right center that gave the Astros just an 8-7 lead, and then you're thinking, all right, well, the Yankees are really getting to Brian Abreu. Can they get a runner on base? Can they get something going? Jazz Chisholm up to bat with Giancarlo Stanton on deck, and it really just went downhill from there. Brian Walsh calls a really close pitch on the outside corner, but it really was a ball in the end of what it looked like outside of the zone, and the Yankees end up losing it 8-7. Couple of guys ejected from the game by this Yankees team, and that really just the frustration boiling up after some missed calls by the home plate umpire Brian Walsh in this one. So the Astros get an 8-7 win, but the Yankees need to bounce back big time as they have a tough opponent once again going up against Houston. It's going to be Carlos Rodon, though, on the mound for the Yankees. 15-7 on the year, 3.18 ERA. He's got a tough opponent on the other side. It's Christian Javier. He's 1-1 on the year at 3.38 ERA. Yankees should win this game. They have one of their top starters on the mound. They have to lock things down. This would be a huge series win to start off a tough stretch for this Yankees team. They head into series after it against Toronto, Detroit, and Boston. I mean, this would be a monster series win for the Yankees to start off this tough stretch. So it all starts 7:40 tonight. Rodon against Javier. It's the Yankees and the Astros at Daikin Park down in Houston. But that will do it for episode 106 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malin, but thanks for watching. Enjoy the football, and talk to you all on Monday.